Should you invest all of your hard-earned Zetas, Omicrons, relic materials, gear pieces into a new great character or maybe terrible character? That's a tough question. It's a question that all of us at all levels have. Today, folks, I hope to help answer that question for you in our segment entitled
Making the Grade.
So today's Making the Grade, guys, is none other than Ezra Exile. You could tell from our thumbnail at the very beginning of the video. Ezra Exile, for those of you who don't know, he's a Conquest character. He's been out for a little while. We've had a chance to test him a good bit with some different situations, different characters, different teams, things like that. So this should be a pretty comprehensive video. There are still a couple of question marks at the moment as of this video, but for the most part, we have a pretty solid handle on him. So with that being said, folks, let's go ahead and check out some more of his kit. Specifically, we're going to be checking out the overview of him first. So I like to kind of go over a lot of different aspects of the character in our Making the Grade before we get to the actual grading itself. So just an overview of Ezra Exile for those of you that are really new to him as a character here, folks. He is a light side character. He is a support character. Here's the big stuff. He is a Jedi and a Spectre. Spectre, for those of you who don't know, is the faction for the new GL Ahsoka team, basically. So that's a very, very select tag. Very, very few number of characters that go with that. At the moment, we have 7 of them. Versus the Jedi tag is a very large tag. There's lots of Jedi characters in the game. So if you don't have the Spectre team, if you don't have GL Ahsoka yet, no worries. The Jedi tag will help you significantly. You can still do a whole lot with this character, guys, because of the Jedi tag. Moving on to our next thing, we're going to be looking at the team comps themselves. So we kind of alluded to this a little bit in our tags section. The team comps that work best with Ezra. We've got, obviously, the #1 version is the Ahsoka, GL Ahsoka team that we have. If you have wailed on that, if you have gone hard on that, it's a great, great team across the board. We'll detail that more later. If you don't have Ahsoka yet, though, and you're working towards her, you can use General Syndulla as a lead as well with the rest of the Spectre team. They're, I would say, like kind of a B grade team. They're not amazing. They're certainly not a GL status level team. But hey, if you're in a pinch, it works. The first idea that I had personally was a Rey team. I thought immediately this team screams a Rey team because of all the foresight, which we'll detail here in a moment. And he just works so well in a Rey team, specifically with the Ben Solo aspect of the team in particular. And of course, if you want to, you could also use him with a JML team, a Jedi team. The downside of a JML team, as we'll establish here a little bit later on, folks, is that with JML, being able to assist and be called to assist with his what we call the coin ability is really, really important in that team. And unfortunately, because Ezra is exiled, that really limits his ability to interact with that at the very beginning of the battle. So he has some limitations with JML. Obviously, with the Rey team, he's not an UFU, so he's got some limitations there, nor is he a resistance. But you can still make him work in either of those comps. Probably ideal situation, guys, though, is the Ahsoka and General Syndulla Spectre teams. All right. Abilities. Next up, we're going to do a brief overview of the abilities for Ezra here, guys. His basic is called Fugitive's Defense. The TLDR of this is that he does physical damage, he inflicts speed down, stagger on occasions, and he also will gain foresight. So his basic's relatively simple, nothing too crazy there. The special, his first special, is called Kanan's Legacy. This is a really cool special. This is a little bit more wordy. First of all, it includes health and protection recovery plus protection up. He will call the ally to assist that he targets. That ally will also gain a bonus turn, bonus offense, and you will dispel debuffs that are on them. He will then gain some resilient defense from it as well. He also gains stacks of Purgle Migration, which we'll talk about later on. And then his Omicron, instead of it providing backup plan to just the targeted ally, backup plan is given to all Spectre allies. So that's a really big upgrade with the Omicron. For those of you who don't know what backup plan is, that's basically the Phoenix revival from Hera that you guys have in the old Phoenix team. So really nice ability. I will make a note here, guys. As of this recording, currently that backup plan is not working correctly. That is something that CG needs to fix. So just be aware of that. Right now, that Omicron technically is not working in game, but again, I do expect them to fix that down the road once they come back from their break. So that shouldn't be a long-term issue. His second special is called Daring Advance, and this gets a little bit more wordy, but not too crazy. It deals physical damage 3 times. It inflicts healing immunity, offense down, and occasionally stuns depending on circumstances. You'll also reduce the target's defense for 1 turn. In terms of the Omicron, this again has an Omicron, and I should say, guys, all of these Omicrons on him are GAC Omicrons. You will deal bonus health-based damage to the character you target. The debuffs become locked, so those debuffs that we talked about earlier, healing immunity, offense down, etc., those are locked and not dispellable. And you reduce the cooldown of Daring Advance by 1. So again, overall, the specials aren't super crazy impressive on their own. When you start to pair him with Ahsoka in particular and Sabine, it becomes a little bit more impressive. Now we get into the uniques. This is where we get really wordy, guys. I'm going to do my best to get through this as simply as I can, but it gets a little wordy when we get into the uniques. First unique is Exile. Simple word, not a simple kit. Light side allies, they gain Foresight, and they gain instant defeat immunity as long as Ezra is on the board. Anytime a character gains Exile, they gain crit chance, defense, health, protection. Anytime they lose Exile, they gain crit chance, crit damage, offense, potency, and speeds. In other words, when they have Exile, they're harder to kill. When they lose Exile, they become more dangerous. A character that is exiled cannot attack or gain buffs during another character's turn. So it's not quite the same as Isolate, where you're completely isolated. And it's definitely not the same as Fracture, where you can't do anything either. You can still function as a character. It's just that you can't do things or gain buffs based on other characters' turns. In terms of the Omicron, again, a GAC Omicron, you gain 5% mastery whenever you gain or lose Exile. And that goes for everybody, guys, not just Ezra. That's for every character in your team. Plus, they also gain 30 speed the first time they lose Exile. So, again, a lot of really good stuff tied into Exile. And again, you can't see the entirety of this kit because Ahsoka is missing. Ahsoka does a lot with Exile in her kit, which really makes the spread a lot faster. By himself, this is a little bit limited. It really only applies to him if you're on like a Rey team or a JML team. But when you put him under Ahsoka, this unique really blossoms in particular. His second unique is entitled The Force is My Ally. Again, a lot of word vomit on this one, guys. Light side allies, there is no cooldown manipulation from enemies. Allies can manipulate cooldowns, although that doesn't really happen very frequently, if ever. But enemies cannot manipulate your cooldowns. Ezra gains health when he is debuffed. Anytime he uses an ability or attacks, he gains Purgle Migration, and the stacks of that vary based on different situations. But again, this is just a general overview, guys. Once he hits 50 stacks, he gains health, protection, a bonus turn. He also exiles the enemy that he targets and attacks first. And he also ability blocks all enemies. So yeah, Purgle Migration is pretty nice when you hit that 50 stack number. Plus, guys, you're also gaining 1% defense and tenacity per Purgle Migration. Man, try saying that 10 times fast. Okay, so that's the overview of his abilities, guys. Again, the TLDR of that. Let's get into the general modding. Again, we're not getting really super detailed on this, guys. This is just general modding and how his modding will work for you. So there's kind of 3 thoughts in the community right now in terms of how he should be modded. Those 3 are either A, speed, so 4 speed sets plus 2 health sets, and you really want to prioritize speed above all else, as much speed as you can possibly put on him. Plus, you obviously want health primaries, you want health secondaries when possible, that kind of thing, to really capitalize on that bonus protection that he can gain. I think this mod layout is more effective when you're using Ahsoka on offense. When you're on defense with her, things change a little bit because the whole concept of the Ahsoka team in particular, guys, is that you want to be thick and survive, and you slowly ramp up that mastery, and that's when you become really dangerous. You're not dangerous to start the battle out. You have to ramp that mastery up. Obviously, the faster he is, the faster you get to ult, the faster you start to ramp your mastery. But certain teams can really just obliterate your side characters like Ezra, like Sabine, if you're not careful. So some people choose instead to mod Ezra and Sabine and some of the other characters with a little bit more thickness. With Ezra specifically, some people will go with all health sets with speed secondaries as much as possible. Some other people have made the decision to go with defense sets. I think this is interesting. Defense sets with, again, speed secondaries. Sometimes they might do a speed set with a defense set. It kind of depends on priorities. For me personally, I actually have him with a speed set plus a health set. I have primarily used Ahsoka on offense at this point. I have found that she is vulnerable to some very not great teams at the moment on defense. I don't want to give away too many details on that just yet, because also not only is that something that's still new and being tested out, but also there's a good chance that with some buffs for things that are not working currently correctly, like Hu Yang and also backup plan, those things might change. So I don't want to give you guys a team that is working currently as a counter, but will not work later down the road as a counter. So just keep that in mind, everybody. But generally speaking, this is kind of the modding layout that most people are recommending. Again, guys, obviously certain circumstances might call for different mod layouts, things like that. This is just kind of a general thought process, a general overview of him as a whole. All right, moving on to probably the part that most of you are interested in. What are the grades for Ezra in these different game modes in particular? And what can you expect from that investment that you put into him? So in terms of the raid, first of all, guys, this is a question mark right now. We don't know what the next raid will be. It has not been announced yet. If it is a Peridia raid of some kind, obviously this skyrockets and this becomes an A, if not an A+. If the raid is not a Peridia raid and it's excluding the Peridia content, the Ahsoka show content, then this drops to an F. So this is a really either A or B kind of situation. There's not really going to be any gray area or in between on that one. So this one is a question mark tentatively as of this video. Galactic Challenges, so I'm going to give him a B. This one's a tough one because he does inflict a lot of debuffs. He does give a lot of buffs to the team. So it can help with certain Galactic Challenge feats to some degree. But at the same time, unless you have Ahsoka, he's really limited because those bonuses are really only applying to him and not the rest of the team very frequently. So he's got some usability. He's got some things that could be used for Galactic Challenges, but he's not really an A level character where he's going to be able to be used all the time. If you have Ahsoka, this might bump up to an A, but if you're just using Ezra by himself, I would say it is a B. In terms of territory battles, very similar. If you're using him in territory battles, there are select circumstances where he can be very, very good. He can help a lot with the Jedi Cal Kestis battle that you're doing. He makes a big difference there in particular. He can go with a JML team, but if it's a JML lead, it's a little bit limited because of that whole coin issue that we talked about earlier with him being exiled. With a Rey team, he's usually limited because he's not an UFU in that instance for TB. And then obviously if you've got Ahsoka, it's a very, very good team in TB, but there's no special nodes at this point or battles at this point in TB for him. So that really kind of limits his effectiveness and viability, in my opinion, in TB. So as of now, it's a B. If we get a special node in territory battles for an Ahsoka team or a Spectre team more specifically, then this probably jumps up to an A. So again, keep that in mind, guys. This is a little bit subject to change, as CG likes to say. In Conquest, you're noticing a theme here, guys. You're noticing a theme. In Conquest, same idea. If you have Ahsoka, he's very good. He's probably an A-level character with Ahsoka. If you don't have Ahsoka, he's usable with a Jedi team, but again, restricted because of the whole coin tossing thing issue that we got going on there. He can work with Rey. He can get some feats, but again, his feats are kind of limited to himself while he's in exile, unless he's with Ahsoka and you can get him out of exile super duper fast. So again, I could go with an A here, assuming that we all have Ahsoka, guys, and all of us have the ability to use him in that situation, but that's just not the case. Not everyone's going to have him there. They're going to be finding other ways to use him, but he is still very usable in Conquest. He can still help your teams. He's not a waste by any means. So again, a B for that category as well. Now, this is where things change a little bit, guys. In TW, I do give him an A. He's got a lot of flexibility in PvP content. We talked about how he can be very useful in a Rey team. That goes for TW as well as GAC. In TW with an Ahsoka team, I wouldn't give him an A+ simply because his Omicrons are not TW Omicrons. He still is very effective in TW. He still helps that team out a lot in TW, but not quite A+ territory for that. But again, a lot of flexibility. He's very good under one of those 3 teams in particular. So an A there overall for the team as a whole. In GAC, I was really tempted to give him an A+ here, guys. But the reality is he's really good, okay? His Omicrons help a lot, but at the moment, his Omicrons aren't functioning fully correctly. And so I don't think we're getting a real solid sense of what this team under the Ahsoka lead can do yet. I think when they fix some of those issues, and if they fix the AI to work correctly, then I think you're going to see this bump to an A+. But for now, with some of these things not working super well on defense and some of the parts of the kit just not working correctly at all, I think we got to bump it down to an A. He still works really well with a Ray team in GAC. He's very good in Ray team in GAC. But again, his Omicrons are limited. Only one of those Omicrons applies to non-Spectre characters. So it's, again, kind of limited under a Ray team. But overall, you can see, guys, in terms of a grade, it's still pretty good across the board. You know, he's a solid character. He's a solid Conquest character. Certainly, I would recommend you go for him. I would not say ignore him. Like, we're not talking about like a Boba Fett, Scion of Django level kind of character here, guys. He is worth the investment. He is worth going for. He's just, I think he's a little limited at the moment. So that brings us to the overall grade on Ezra, guys. What are we giving him as an overall grade as a character? This is probably going to surprise you. Based on what we saw, you'd probably think B, maybe B+. I'm going to go with an A, guys. I am going to go with an A. And that's largely because I think that there is still some things yet to be seen. I think they need to fix some issues with the Ahsoka team. I think they need to fix some issues with his kit itself not working correctly. And I think once they do that, once they address those issues, then you're going to see him really jump up to the A territory. So I'm kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt here on what he should be doing as opposed to what he is currently doing. If it was just current, I'd say it's B+ probably. But I think once they fix these issues, guys, he's going to be an A overall. Definitely worth an investment in Conquest, guys. Definitely worth an investment, even if you don't have Ahsoka, because he's great with Rey. You're still going to get great benefit with him. You're going to still get a lot of use out of him. So if you get him, absolutely go for him, guys. He is a great character across the board. All right, that will wrap us up for today, guys, in our Making the Grade video. Let me know in the comments down below, guys, what you thought of this video. Did you find it helpful? Is this something you would like to see us continue in the future? We've done kind of character breakdowns in the past, but I liked adding the grading aspect to this in the different game modes. So I'm just interested to see what you guys hear, or hear what your guys' thoughts are on this concept moving forward. Is it something we should revisit with more characters moving forward? And then, of course, let me know, of course, guys, if you agree or disagree on any of these things. Did I miss the mark on some of these grades? Did I miss the mark on some of the overview of the character? You know, that kind of a thing. I'd love to hear from you guys and what your thoughts are. Last but not least, everybody, thank you so much. I couldn't say this enough, guys. Thank you so much to our patrons, everybody. Sorry, I had to wait for the little transition there. Couldn't thank the patrons enough, guys. Could not do this stuff without the patrons. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to them and say thank you, guys. With that being said, everybody, catch you next time.